Hello. I wanted to take a minute to talk about the cost rollup functionality within the Vicinity software application. Specifically, we're going to talk about how Vicinity calculates the theoretical cost of production of a produced item and can update that cost to inventory as well as internal places within Vicinity. This is the component cost rollup screen. It's part of our product development suite or role within the application. One of the first things I can do is I can run this for all items. I'm going to choose to run it for a single item, and then also by say a particular facility. So you can actually have different theoretical costs or standard costs by facility. I'm going to go ahead and run it for just this facility. I'm going to come back and talk about some of the other setup options in just a second, but let me just bring up the report and we'll talk from there. The system shows that we did successfully completed a rollup for one item, and that's what you're seeing here. I intentionally ran this report in detail so we could see how the different cost elements that are going into the cost rollup. First, some summary information about how I ran the report and what information we're showing in this particular section of the report. The last time I ran it was this cost, and this time I've got this cost. And the financial cost is what is in inventory, what the inventory standard cost would be. I'll talk a little bit more about how these two fields can get updated as we move forward. So we've got a new cost being calculated of $636.97, and how it comes up per each, by the way, per the stocking unit of measure in inventory is what this is representing. First thing I want to point out are these levels. We're actually showing a multi-level bill of material here where for this production or this formula they use a tank or a mixer, combine products together to make an intermediate, which happens to be a bulk item, this Vicinity Red bulk item. So the first batch ticket consumes these raw materials to put some bulk on hand, and that completes this layer, and then subsequently they go package that bulk, putting it into packaging and adding some labor. That's how you read this. So these levels are identifying top level is the final finished product, and then the second level is all the ingredients and labor and overhead associated with making this intermediate. So I can look across this and I can see that the intermediate cost is being calculated at $112 a gallon. And it takes 5 gallons because of a loss. It takes 5 gallons going into my 5-gallon pail. So it takes 5 gallons of bulk to go into my one single finished product. That's how you read that. It also takes some labor. That's what you're seeing, these types of costs. This is a bill of material component. This is the packaging item going into the final assembly. We've also got some cost that's going in for the packaging piece, and what you're looking at here is 15 units. That could be minutes. 5 units times $15 a unit, or $75 is being applied to make a single item of this product, a single each of this product. Then we get down to the intermediate, and this is the intermediate cost. It takes 5 gallons at a calculated cost of this, and that's the total cost going into this end item. Then we get down into our individual raw materials. These are the quantities that are needed to make one base unit of measure, one each of this finished product. And everything right now, these are measured in pounds, and then we get into some additional costs down here. The cost is actually controllable by the person running the report. This cost is coming from inventory based on the inventory evaluation method for each individual raw material. So some raw materials could be at FIFO or LIFO or average or standard. We're figuring that out when we run the report and representing what the appropriate cost based on your cost method. You also have the ability to override this and say always use standard no matter what the cost roll up, what the accounting method is for that inventory item. So you've got a little bit of control on where that unit cost comes from. The extension is simply the quantity per stocking unit of measure to make this times the cost per equals that extension. If you add up all these extensions, you'll get to this intermediate cost of $560.97. All of these are ingredient costs, Then we get down into some additional costs, labor and overhead, and we're seeing a scenario here where we're putting a certain quantity in, 1 unit per pound going into the process, and so it's adding that additional cost. There is also some other costs that are being added based on this additional cost. So we add 10% of this cost to 20% of that cost, and that's where you're getting these numbers being added. So basically think of it as overhead on top of labor that's being applied on a factor of labor. We also have one more additional cost to show, and this one is on a fixed basis, where this one is variable. The larger the batch, the more it gets. This one's fixed. No matter how big the batch is, it's going to get 5.47 units per each times $20 per unit or $100 for that additional cost going into the compound or the mixing process. On the second page of this, I've got a summary that puts things in buckets. So here's the material cost, the additional cost, that's labor and overhead. Then we have labor and overhead assigned to that additional cost. And then you get into some bill of material or packaging costs. That's the actual material cost that we've got for the package, and then some labor and overhead going on with that. So this is the report for the cost roll-up.